morning. My name is Donna Marie Collins. The date is May 2nd, 2024. We're here for a zoning hearing. The case is Town Lake CPD Amendment, DCI 2023-00044. All testimony and evidence that I accept during these hearings must be taken in under oath. I will administer the oath to everyone in the room at one time when I conclude my remarks. For those of you that are members of the public here today, I'll briefly explain our order of proceedings. We will begin with the applicant's presentation. This is their consulting team representing the property owner. They will present their request and explain how it is consistent with the Lee Plan and the Land Development Code. Following their presentation, which may include more than one witness, we will proceed to county staff. The planner who prepared the staff report will make her presentation. At the conclusion of her presentation, I will open up the floor to members of the public that wish to offer comments on the application. In my experience, oftentimes the public is not completely against or in favor, but they have specific concerns. I urge you to share those concerns with us so that we can focus on clarifying any misunderstandings or perhaps fashioning a condition that might address your concerns. I am not the final decision maker on changes to plan developments that are perceived to be an intensification of existing development entitlements. Instead, I prepare a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners, who will be the final decision makers in a hearing that will be held probably within 2 or 3 to 4 weeks after I issue my recommendation. If you wish to have the opportunity to address the board at the final hearing, you must participate in the hearing here today. All right, all those that intend on speaking in the record, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony and evidence you enter into the record today will be the truth? Okay, thank you. I'm ready to begin. I forgot, hang on, I forgot. Maria, can you please grab me a pad?
Good morning, Madam Hearing Examiner. For the record, Fred Droblik, Principal Director of Planning with RBI Planning and Landscape Architecture. The rest of our team today here with me today is Steve Creighton. He's the Development Manager of Arkland Property Company. And they're the owners of the property and the developers and builders. And also here with me today is project engineer Michelle Salzberg from Quattrone Associates. I would like to ask that Michelle and I be accepted as experts. Michelle in civil engineering and land use planning, and myself in land use planning, the Land Development Code, and comprehensive planning.
Has Michelle given testimony in this forum before?
Yes, quite a few times. Yeah.
All right, very good. Yes, please proceed.
Her resume should be on file and everything should be current. So we're here today to hear Town Lake's an amendment to the Town Lakes Commercial Plan Development, the CPD portion of the Town Lakes CPD RPD. And then as far as housekeeping, I do have attachments for you or printouts for you to have in paper, so we should probably run through those first and then we'll be off with the presentation. All right, I have so I have 2 copies of the PowerPoint presentation.
That'll be applicant exhibit
1, and I have an 11 by 17 of the complete master concept plan, which is 4 pages, and then I have one 24 by 36 of just the page 2, which is the specific master concept plan for this site.
Okay, very good. I'll accept those now. The 24 by 36 will be applicant exhibit 3. So PowerPoint is 1. 11 by 17 is 2. And the 24 by 36 is going to be 3.
So we're here before you today to do two things. One is to increase the maximum square footage that available to mini warehouse use within the CPD, and two, to add to the schedule of uses storage, open and indoor. Both these uses are already occurring on the site, on the southwestern portion of this site. The storage open and indoor is really just a clarification of the schedule use to be consistent with the current land development code. It's not to add really a new use. So we're taking the commercial square footage from 80,000 square feet for mini warehouse to 220,000 square feet, and that's the reason that the primary reason that we're here today. It's for 3.39 acres, and I'll walk through that, showing that it's a lot split to the current undeveloped parcel that's in the northwest corner of Williams and Fountain Mist. And these are the last two undeveloped parcels within the CPD. So I'll run through that today. A lot of this isn't, since it was already use that's within the CPD, it's just the intensification of the square footage. What I'm going to show you today is run through some of our process, meeting with the public. The Town Lakes RPD had a lot of thoughts on, or the Town Lakes subdivision had a lot of thoughts on what they would either like to see on this corner, or concerns about safety or lighting, other issues. So I'll walk through that process of how we changed the site plan after we met with them, and then show you some pictures to give you a better understanding of the area. I won't spend a bunch of time on the consistency with the comp plan and the land development code. I do have that in my presentation. I'm not going to go through them one by one. The staff report was complete, and we do agree in whole with the staff report.
Okay, I have a quick question.
Sure.
It was my understanding that you were also seeking to increase height to 45.
We are not. The original application did say 45 feet. We have reduced that to 35 feet.
Okay, second question.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on.
That was part of the adjustments, and I do have a slide specifically on those changes like that.
So mini warehouse is individual storage units with exterior doors that are accessible from the outside. So I can see you've got these long, skinny buildings, and then you've got two larger buildings. Now, are those public warehouses rather than mini warehouses? Is the intent that those will be accessible from indoors?
The larger building, yeah, is a typical, and we have the pictures of it, it's a typical, yeah, mini warehouse that is accessible from the inside as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
We need to be consistent with the nomenclature in the land development code. And I believe that use is public warehouse, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was public warehouse requested? Is that on the list of permitted uses here?
Go back to the zoning resolution to see if it was an existing on there. Let me find the resolutions and see if C99 included public as an allowable use.
Or do you have an exhibit with a list of permitted uses? We can get it up there. Is it a part of your PowerPoint?
No, it is not, because it was fairly simple.
All right, so this is,
Yeah.
I'm hoping that it's listed as one of your permitted uses, otherwise.
All right, let's see, here we are. Warehouse mini, no.
Do we have a copy of the advertisement, the publication notice?
I do.
May I see that, please? This will be Staff Exhibit 2. Staff Exhibit 1 was the staff report. Okay, so what's the definition of hybrid warehouse? I notice hybrid warehouse is not listed on the list of the requested uses, although I see it in the ad. How does the Land Development Code define hybrid?
And you're referring to the definition section of the Land Development Code that has these listed there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pull it up.
I haven't read that very real recently.
I want to get the scope of what I can approve today nailed down right at the beginning.
Understood.
All of the buildings do have exterior, if that plays into hybrid. They do, all of the buildings have a component of exterior drive-up.
Yeah.
Typically.
You can come back and, if it turns out that it's not, the public warehouse is not contemplated by the hybrid definition, I can approve mini warehouse, and you can come in and amend.
Mm.
Maybe that can be accomplished administratively, I don't know.
Mm.
I'm almost there.
So, yeah, I don't believe the hybrid is meant to be what we're talking about. I think that was put in there for a lot of these luxury car condominium kind of thing, kind of places. Yeah, and I think it's real specific to that with the mezzanines and the other accessory uses like
And to be
restrooms and
used for
stuff.
office space.
Yeah, and office
well.
space and things like that for luxury car storage. I think that is the primary piece of
I have
that.
it here. So warehouse hybrid means any building designed or used to provide individual storage units with separate exterior doors as the primary means of access to individuals for a fee or through individual ownership. In addition to dead storage depositories for personal property, individual storage units may also include ancillary accommodations such as restrooms, mezzanines, or other improvements to create occupiable space as defined by the Florida Building Code for personal hobby or recreation space for individual unit tenants or owners. See mini warehouse, warehouse public, and storage dead.
Okay, so I think the key thing in this definition is the doors are accessible from outside. That's right at the beginning, correct?
Used to provide individuals with separate exterior doors as the primary means of access.
Okay, so here's the thing. Storage uses fall into several categories, right? Mini is only accessible from the outside. Public warehouses, when you go into the building, we see them all over. They're usually multi-stories, and they have accessible units, air-conditioned, from hallways interior to the building.
Mm-hmm.
So this was advertised for hybrid, even though hybrid wasn't listed on the list of requested permitted uses, and mini storage. So that's what I can approve today. We can go forward with the hearing, and you can circle back if your preference is for these two buildings to be more of a public warehouse. That might even be able to be accomplished administratively, or we can continue the hearing. This is your choice.
No, we'll go through.
Okay.
So, yeah, so then one of the questions was it's right to update it currently now, but I wonder if public warehouse was part of the Land Development Code when this was approved in 1999, which is probably why it wasn't on the original list of uses. You know, the different definitions of the warehouse might not
Well, I
have
had
been
another
present at
case
that point.
like this not 2 months ago, where they did not request what they were seeking to build, and I could only approve what they requested. So with storage uses, it's very important that the nomenclature matches what is going to be on the master concept plan and is reflected not only in the use of permitted uses and advertised as such.
Yeah.
So let's go forward, because you've got your layout, that's not gonna change. We can get the increase in square footage reviewed and considered for consistency and compatibility, and we can go from there.
Yep, okay.
All right.
Okay, well, this is what you guys were asking about earlier. Well, it was working.
Let me get out of it because it's doing my Muni code. my.
Is the battery
Oh.
not working?
Go ahead, try it now. No.
Right.
It was working when, well, obviously when we started.
Let me just have Maria swap out the battery
Oh,
for you, or
try it
can
again.
you advance?
Wait. No, that one. No.
My mouse took over a minute ago, so that's this screen. Try it again.
Oh,
Okay.
we got it. It's not the battery. Yeah, we had to look up other things.
Yeah.
Okay. So the location of the property is in central Lehigh Acres. It's 0.6 miles north of Lee Boulevard, which is down here, that intersection. Southwest corner of Fountain Mist Boulevard and Williams Avenue. Williams runs here. Fountain Mist, which is the main entrance to the Town Lakes residential plan development. So it's in that southwest corner. It's about a half-mile north of the Lehigh Community Park, which is down in this corner. So when we were making our presentations with the Lehigh board, they meet in there, and we were looking out onto, pretty close to looking out onto these properties, and we met there, looking out over onto the park into that property when we met with the Lehigh board. The close-up of the parcel, the address is 619, 625 Williams Avenue. It's 4 acres. It's part of what was a larger parcel that is now split. It's owned by the church and is part of a lot, part of a agreement to split the lot and sell
Okay, so
portion.
just to be clear, the CPD, 21-acre CPD is represented by the green boundary.
Yes,
And this is part of the last remaining undeveloped tract within the CPD.
correct.
It's a lot split off of that last tract.
Right.
And you're saying the remaining parcel is owned by a church,
Currently,
but not yet developed?
there is a development order approved, but not yet developed.
Okay, so development underway, pending.
Yeah.
All right, one other thing.
Hmm.
In the staff report, I was confused because the staff report seemed to indicate that the access to Fountain Lakes was going to be terminated, but the master
Yes.
concept plan still showed it. So I want to just confirm, is there going to be an access onto Fountain Lakes?
No, it's still
Fountain
there.
Mist.
The curb cutting, Fountain Mist, yeah, the curb cutting and everything's there. There's a bike rack there. It's very well used by the kids that go to the bus stop at the end of Fountain Mist. So we'll close that off, complete the sidewalk, but the
The
little curb cut thing will remain there, but then it'll be closed off with the sidewalk and curbing to finish as part of
So
the
then
development.
all access will be directed to the shared access you're going to have with the church?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, yep.
Proceed.
So it's a Town Lake CPD. It's in Central Urban Future Land Use category. I put that on there twice. And so then the Lehigh Acres Community Planning Area actually was obviously part of it. That's what we met with twice, and then we'll run through that. So let's see the next one. So currently, the original Z99-022 was the 21 acres. It was originally rezoned for a maximum of 80,000 square feet of mini warehouse uses plus 20,000 square feet of retail and 48,000 square feet of office. That was the original approval. The revision is simply to strike the 80,000 and add that to 220,000 of mini warehouse and add storage indoor and open to the schedule. And we were trying to be complete. I guess we missed the public warehouse piece because there is a hybrid, there is a mini warehouse component to some of these buildings. We added the indoor, the open storage because actually the other mini warehouse has U-Haul trailers for rent, and open storage wasn't on the list, so we were kind of fixing a long-term thing that I saw that I was confused why it wasn't on that list when they had that list approved, or they had that use approved.
Okay, so this will address that
This addresses,
code violation.
he addresses that one well, but the public warehouse piece maybe not.
Well, I noticed that the ad does indicate that there will be open storage added to the list of permitted uses, so you're covered there.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so I put this on here, it's also in the staff report, just showing you the current active development orders that have been approved, showing that the square footage, there is an adequate square footage left in the development in order to accomplish the additional public warehouse and mini warehouse that we're adding to this parcel. And that's the primary reason for the request today. As you mentioned, the Providence Church that owns that and that approved development order is sitting there active, but not under development yet.
And will that take up the entire remainder of that CPD? Would you say this is going to complete the build out?
Very, very close. So this is the original. Most of the developments out there now is just under 66,000 square feet. That includes that mini warehouse use in the office. There's a putt-putt there and some other things, some office space. And then with the Providence Church, it won't use up all of it, but it certainly uses up. I mean, so no, not all of it is used up because total there's 148,000 square feet approved.
I was just wondering if the church was going to take up that whole parcel.
Oh no, this is including the church is 27,000 or 28,000 square feet. So the two combined, what the future development of the church and the current developments there is just under 100,000 square feet.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So this is showing just to kind of the walk around of the master concept plan. So I want to note on here, as you mentioned, that there's no change in the height. The 35 feet is approved in the current CPD. We're not requesting any change in the height. The couple of the unique things about this, there was, and I'll go through this on the slide, but we're retaining the existing Town Lake sign that's at the corner. Our original proposal showed that building, squared off instead of notched out to allow for the sign, but there's some landscaping there. And there's a Town Lake sign that's well done, and the community really wanted to keep it, so we adjusted.
I noticed that when I did the site check.
Yeah, it looks good.
Clarifying that.
Yeah, it looks good. The community likes it, and so credit to Arkland Development. They redid their architecturals and notched out the building to accommodate that. No access, so we are specific about that, closing off that access, I suppose in the development order, whatever we'll try to keep the bike racks that are there, and the sidewalk will probably just need to be connected as part of the development order. But no access there as we're shown. We're pointing out the type F buffer in the water management area. That was obviously important to the homeowners across the water management area. Just what are they going to be looking at? What are they going to be experiencing? And so we put a covered RV and boat building on that side that is going to be enclosed. It says enclosed on 3 sides. The one side that's open is internal to the project, so it would be facing east. The
Open side is facing east.
Yeah, open side is facing east. And then our type F buffer and the water management areas in between that use and the closest house. And
right, because there's no road there, so it's basically your property line and then the RPD. So
Yep,
you're
pretty much.
doing an enhanced width and vegetated buffer there.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the land development code requires less, so that's going to be enhanced.
Yes.
And you're putting your water management, you say there?
Yeah, the on-site water management
Yeah.
there as well, and then there's water management. It's part of the master development
Right.
that's running along here as well. That is, obviously off of our site and part of the larger picture. So there'll be water management here, and then the area that belongs to the RPD is there with which its own water management area as well. Ours won't be a lake, I mean, but it'll be the pre-treatment and the
So
dry
it should be
retention.
screened pretty well, because I think that buffer has to be maintained at 60 inches.
It does,
You
yes.
know, installed at 48, maintained at 60, it's gonna function like a wall.
Yeah, and 10 trees per 100 is
Right.
quite dense, especially after a 3 to 5 year growth, it's dense. And that building, we didn't specify it here, everything's listed as 35 feet, but I mean, since it's RV covered storage, I mean, we aren't putting RVs on multiple stories, so that is a single story building.
Well, you think the back of that building would also almost function like a wall,
Yeah,
you know, further buffering the rest of the site from,
yeah, and that was the thought of enclosing it, was just.
yeah, I think
to
you
go-
did a good job with that.
Thank you. Some of these hours of operation, some of the other stuff on the master concept plan, I'll go through. I have a slide dedicated just to that. The other part is the new access point that we're proposing here as an agreement. I'll walk through that process. It was just interesting, and I know you're very interested in how we interacted with the public, and in this case, the client, Arkland, was wonderful to work with. They come from an environment near Washington, D.C. that some of these meetings can even be more intense than here with public opposition, and they're used to accommodating those things in order to get things through. So for us, it was very refreshing that they were very willing to dig into changes that, cost them money and time, but they were willing to do them, and it was very complimentary to their efforts there.
So they're gonna tie into the church's access from Williams Ave.
Yeah, well, this is a new access, and I have, the next slide will show that. So there's two. So this is the existing access that has a stub out to the churches, to that whole remaining property and to the church, where the church will develop. This is a new access that's in the middle of Fountain Mist and the current existing access to the Town Lake CPD. So this is an additional access point onto Williams Avenue.
So will that be part of your development order, or is it part of their development order?
Can I speak to this?
Yeah, in fact, yeah, Steve would like to
So-
share about this.
So we've secured an easement on the church's property for shared access. We will build that out and use it at the beginning of our project, because we would be first to construct, in
Okay.
theory. And then the church has the right to use it as well with their future development.
All right, so that's gonna be your construction entrance, and then ultimately your project entrance, primary project entrance.
Correct, primary and only project entrance. Once complete.
All right. There was a sort of discussion, I don't know if this is necessary, I thought this would be helpful to share our process. Part of what what could be a concern was just the intersection separation on Williams. And there's a deviation that talks to, having another access point onto an arterial or major collector, which Williams is considered a major collector. So there's a deviation that addresses that. But then might have been a concern about the intersection separation. It wasn't a concern, but when you drive out there, it feels like it could be a 45-mile-an-hour road very easily, which would then make it where we need a wider intersection separation, and would have needed a deviation in order to accomplish the connection point. We didn't need a deviation for intersection separation. There's signs right next to it that are 35 miles an hour, so that allowed us to only be required 245 feet, and we're showing 285 feet plus intersection
And
separation.
that's only a two-lane road. I
It is.
noticed people travel at high rates of speed
I know.
along it, though.
It's
like
so
a
long and
crash.
it's so straight,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's why, I mean, honestly, we were all a little bit surprised that it was 35 mile an hour. We knew it early on, as soon as we needed to address the additional access point.
On account you were
but-
going 50 miles an hour when you went past.
Yes, you didn't see the sign, yeah. So there's no deviation needed for that. We'll go through the deviation that was needed to accomplish the connection. This is the Fountain Mist Boulevard entrance, and we showed there the bike racks. That was actually during a school day, but they've been out there on other days where that bike rack is completely full. With testimony, I don't know this for a fact, but from testimony at the Lehigh board, there were parents saying there's probably 20 plus buses that stop there a day, And it's quite busy at the end of this, at the end of this street.
And that's the drop-off point.
That's the draw, yeah, and for that, it's where the kids ride their bikes from the neighborhood, park the bikes there, and then walk to the corner of Williams and Fountain Mist and get on the buses. So, after that, hearing the testimony, being able to secure another access point, we just thought this was a great idea to leave this untouched. And then we'll see if we've got connecting the sidewalk together and make it a cohesive connection point there and close that off permanently. This is a rendering. It's probably changed a little bit. Of course, this is just conceptual, but this is the idea of the development here. I pointed out where we would close the access in the back to Fountain Mist, and then this is the visualization of the new access point and the signage that would be for the storage building. And then, yes, this is the existing Town Lakes sign and landscaping that they notched the building out in order to accommodate. This is looking north on Williams, to the north, looking northwest to that side of the building that would be, I guess, seen from the church property. And with the buffers and the typical buffers that we have listed on there, type A on the south, type D against Williams Avenue. So we met twice with the Lehigh Acres Architectural Board, once on November 16th and then a follow-up on January 24th. We advertised the November 16th meeting on our own, as well as obviously the public meetings for Lehigh Acres Board are advertised as well, but we did advertise independently of the Lehigh Acres Zoning Review Board. 8 citizens formally spoke at the podium, and then of course the Lehigh Board members themselves shared their concerns. And the list, this is the summarized list, is child safety at Fountain Mist entrance. I mentioned the bus stops and the bike racks and the use by the children of that road. Queuing and entrance onto Williams, problematic, is traffic impacts. So they're worried about total traffic impacts on Fountain Mist by the commercial development of this parcel. They objected to the commercial entrance on Fountain Mist because it's already a heavily used entrance to the subdivision. They opposed the 45 feet. They had security concerns, so they were asking about fencing, cameras, lighting, what'll be in place. They asked if we would consider using Williams as a primary entrance. At that time, we had no talks with the church in order to do that, so that was a new endeavor for us after that meeting. And then consider hours of operation limits. So they went back to the drawing board. Arkland did their work, did their homework, renegotiated with the church in order to accomplish a shared access point, and then went through these other design criteria in order to change the site. And so the adjustments that we made were agree to close Fountain Mist entrance, and because of that, create the new shared access with the parcel to the south at the applicant's expense. So that is at their time and expense, and they're obviously, as Steve mentioned, they're going to construct that entrance as needed for their construction entrance and their primary entrance once the project is complete. So we will be on the hook to build that, and then it'll be shared with the church as one of their access points that they can use. Reduce the height request from 45 feet to 35 feet. Now it's consistent with the existing CPD. Agree to install shielded lighting. It complies with dark sky standards. I think that's probably just that's part of the land development code anyway, but we put it formally in, as part of our agreement with them. Limited hours from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. At one point, we showed just open storage for the RV storage, and it was in a bit of a different location. We agreed to enclose it on 3 sides, and enclose that RV storage on the 3 sides, move the building to that western border, and then enhance the buffers and did the things necessary to make that as attractive as we can, and with the lowest building abutting the residential subdivision.
I noticed caretaker's residence is already a permitted use in the CPD.
Mm-hmm.
Will there be someone on site? Is the intent, is there for to be a caretaker for this site, or is it just gonna have an office and that'll be open from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.?
Yeah, I'll have Steve answer that.
So we do not have what used to be considered the caretaker that lives on site, but we do have a staffed office during
Okay.
business hours.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
As typical, there will be fencing, the property will be fully enclosed.
And that's for security?
That's for security, yeah, and it is on the MCP showing where the fences are, where the fence lining is. Some of it, it's a little bit, you can't pull into the main piece of the property, but then in order to go any further and have access to anything of importance, it's all fenced, and then so the rest of the property is fenced in for security.
So where is the parking?
Yeah, along the main building and the office site, so we don't have it determined on there. You know, I don't show the striping on there, but all the distances and everything are there for the parking areas. And we do have a development order in, so if we want a little bit of detail on that, Michelle is here and she's worked through the parking layout quite extensively. So
I guess it's not that much of an issue since we're only looking at mini storage today, but when this becomes a public warehouse, that's gonna be, that you have parking is gonna be more relevant because people are gonna park and go inside rather than just like pull up to their unit, lift the door and do their business.
yeah, and we have accommodated site, assuming that it is exactly that type of use. I mean, so we do understand the parking regulations, that there's parking, it is 20, a parking space for every 25 indoor units. We do have a small deviation for that is allowed even administratively, but it is part of the zoning, about a 5% reduction in the parking, which is really just a couple of spaces. But it does help because we're near the bus, or on a bus line, and there's bike and pedestrian access there, so that could be accomplished administratively. We chose to add that into the zoning to just take care of it now instead of having to go through more negotiation at the development order stage.
And there was no public objection to the dumpster being there on Fountain Mist?
Haven't heard anything. I think they were just very happy that we were closing it, and it will be landscaped and everything there with the type D buffer, but yeah, we didn't hear anything about that. And then the bottom that's a little bit cut off at the figure is just the 30-foot type F buffer that we discussed. Those were the changes we made, and from that, then the board at the initial one abstained from voting, which is essentially a denial, and then the second one they approved unanimously. So here's the things. There's 4 deviations, only 3 of them are staff recommending approval. We're fine with that. The first one was just a reduction in the required dumpster space for this amount of square footage. If you go off the commercial requirements for a dumpster, the dumpster would be enormous for the amount of things that would the amount of refuse that would actually be generated, because there really is just the office use, and that's what it's limited to. So this has become a bit of a common request by public warehouse, mini warehouses.
It
And
might be time to revisit the land development code on that.
Hmm?
Might be time to revisit the land development code on that.
Yeah, so, to make,
So you're seeking 4,
yep,
1 is recommended for denial, so you're basically withdrawing that and you're going to
Yes.
apply at DO stage.
yep, yeah, we can accomplish, if it needs to be for fire or safety, for circulation, we can ask for an administrative deviation at the entrance point at the time of DO. Sometimes we've taken care of it at zoning.
Yeah,
You could-
it's available during DO, that's fine.
Yep. And then access to the, so there's relief on, so lots in urban areas with access alternatives, which they consider access alternative would be Fountain Mist Boulevard, because that was approved from the very beginning as an access point, to not be granted additional curb cuts or access onto arterial or major collectors. So staff agreed to allow that based on, public interaction and our efforts to accommodate the concerns for safety on Fountain Mist Boulevard and the queuing and traffic concerns on that entranceway to their residential development. So with that, that gets through the meat of the presentation. The rest of it, we're agreeing with the staff report in whole that we're consistent with the land, with the Lee plan, and we meet the land development code, and we're compatible with the existing and planned uses. Provide access sufficient. The impact on transportation facilities will be addressed by the regulations. There aren't any specific environmental concerns on this site. There is environmentally that has been taken care of in the original development. And it will be served by all the urban services that are currently available to the existing CPD. And so there's the list of the comprehensive plan consistency policies. Those are the same ones that are listed in the staff report. We agree with their analysis and I agree that we are consistent with those comprehensive plan policies that are applicable to this site. And then as a professional opinion, as me as a certified planner, I agree with staff. The request is generally consistent with the Lee plan's goals, policies, and objectives, the Lee County's land development code and ordinances and other applicable regulations, and would ask for approval of the request today.
Okay,
That's
thank
all I
you
have.
very much. I don't have any questions. So I'm ready for staff's presentation. We might get done early. Did you have something for the afternoon? No.
Good morning, Madam Hearing Examiner. For the record, I'm Mary Sue Groth, a senior planner with the Department of Community Development Zoning Section. I've previously been qualified as an expert witness in land use planning, the Lee County Land Development Code, and Comprehensive Plan. I would like to ask to do so again today.
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you. I do have a copy of my PowerPoint for exhibit for you.
This will be staff exhibit 3.
And of course, you already have the public notice as my second exhibit. And just for the record, the hearing was advertised in the Fort Myers News Press on April 18th. And I also have a third exhibit. It is containing correspondence with a member of the public that could not attend today, Miss Judy Perkins, who lives in the Town Lakes RPD. If I can approach.
The correspondence will be marked as Exhibit 4. Staff Exhibit 1 is the staff report, 2 is the publication notice, 3 is the PowerPoint, and 4 is the correspondence.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll start with the applicant's request and staff recommendation. RVI Planning and Landscape Architecture on behalf of Arkland Property Company LLC has filed an application to amend the Town Lake CPD, Resolution Z-99-022 as amended, to allow a maximum of 220,000 square feet of floor area dedicated to mini warehouse and open storage for RV boat storage, and allow 35-foot building heights on 3.39 acres identified as parcels A through N of the master concept plan. The applicant has requested 4 deviations from the land development code requirements related to refuse and solid waste disposal facility, parking, access width, and the required street access. The applicant has provided an approved submittal requirement waiver, GEN 2023-00336, for soils, existing flowways, flux, and rare and unique habitat maps and for the environmental report and protected species and ATIS. Staff approved the waiver for the environmental maps, except for the flux and the environmental report and protected species survey. The TIS waiver request was approved with the condition the applicant provides supplementary documentation that demonstrated the reduction of traffic-related effects resulting from the proposed development. Staff does recommend approval of the request and 3 of the 4 deviations with conditions. Some background information on the property. Subject property is located at 619/625 Williams Avenue within the Lehigh Acres Planning Community and contains 1 strap and lies within the Central Urban Future Land Use category and is zoned CPD. A little history. The approximately 21.1 acres of land, including the subject property, were rezoned from Ag 2 to RPD, CPD, and CFPD by Resolution Z-95-015. Resolution PD 97-058 amended the schedule of uses by reducing the senior housing component and the neighborhood retail use, and increased the single-family housing component while reducing the single-family estate minimum lot size. Resolution Z-99-022 rezoned 73.5 acres from the CFPD RPD, 170 acres from the RPD, and 10 acres from CPD to an RPD, and rezoned 21.1 acres, including the subject property, from the CPT to CPD, to allow a maximum of 20,000 square feet of office and 80,000 square feet of mini warehouse uses. Subsequent amendments would include a COP for use with a fraternal club, an MCP amendment establishing lots A through F, and adding rental and leasing establishments groups 3 and 4 and open storage to the schedule of uses. The subject property is the last remaining undeveloped parcel within the CPD. Surrounding development includes the Town Lakes RPD to the north and west, and a fraternity club, a tennis facility, and a storage facility with a parking lot within the same CPD to the south, and single-family residential RS1 properties to the east. The applicant, as Fred told us, has applied for the development order under case number DOS 2024-00024. It is currently waiting on the applicant for additional information.
Wait, is that a concurrent application for this zoning?
Yes. Covering Lee Plan, LDC Section 34-145, the following slides will demonstrate how the applicant has met the listed criteria for the hearing examiner to approve the request. As previously mentioned, the subject parcel is located in the Central Urban Future Land Use category. Pursuant to Policy 1.1.3, the project site is in an area that encourages mixed-use development, and the proposed project provides service to the surrounding community. Mini warehouse and open storage is an existing allowable use within the schedule of uses in the CPD, and the increase in square footage is consistent with the goals of the Central Urban Future Land Use category. The proposed development will serve the surrounding community and will remain compatible with other uses in the area.
Okay, hang on a second. What is Lee Plan Policy 1.3.4? Isn't that interchange?
Yeah, I'm sorry that got left on there.
Okay. So it's 1.1.3.
1.1.3,
Okay. So the heading is.
incorrect.
Okay. I'm ready for the next slide.
Okay. Pursuant to Objective 2.1, the proposed amendment will allow development of an infill project that promotes compact growth and patterns. The planned development is located on the southwest corner of Fountain Mist Boulevard / Laripe Loop and Williams Avenue. Access is proposed to be provided from Williams Avenue via a shared access that will be constructed on the property to the south. Existing infrastructure of water and sewer is in place, and utilities are available to the site. Adequate public facilities, including fire, police, EMS, and solid waste service the property. The applicant has provided a letter of availability from FGUA stating potable water and sewer lines are in operation adjacent to the property and that sufficient capacity exists to provide service based on the estimated flow demand provided at time of submittal, fulfilling requirements of standard 4.1.1 and 4.1.2. And the applicant also provided the approved waiver for submittal requirements under GEN 2023-00366 for the environmental maps, and they did provide an updated protected species survey and flux maps with the submittal. For policy 5.1.5 residential land uses, the applicant has provided a 30-foot enhanced type F buffer along the western boundary at the subject property abutting the Town Lake subdivision. The development design places water management between the subdivision and the closest building, leaving a minimum of 200 feet from residential uses to the single-story storage building. Business hours of the storage facility are proposed to be limited to 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. And the mini warehouse and open storage is an existing allowable use within the Town Lake CPD and has already been determined to be compatible with the existing and planned residential uses pursuant to policy 5.1.5. For Goal 6 commercial land uses, the property is located within an established CPD with other nearby existing CPD, CFPD, RPD, and RS1 zoning districts. The applicant has provided a trip generation analysis for the proposed amendment that concluded a reduction of 1,700 square feet of retail use in the CPD will allow for a decrease in overall trips from the original Town Lake CPD approval with this requested amendment. The applicant provided an MCP depicting adequate landscaping and buffering. Urban services such as potable water, sanitary sewer, fire, EMS, and police protection are available to serve the proposed development. As previously mentioned, mini warehouse and open storage are already established uses within the CPD, and the applicant has modified the design based on the public input from the first public information meeting to assure compatibility. There are no wetlands on the site, and drainage has been established as part of the plat, which fulfills policy 6.1.1. As previously mentioned, the parcel is located within an existing CPD, which abuts the same CPD to the south, RS1 properties to the east and north, along with CFPD/RPD to the west, consistent with policy 6.1.4 and policy 6.1.7. The current roadway network is adequate to support the proposed development, and the applicant provided a traffic memo concluding that a reduction in retail use will allow a decrease in overall trips and that no additional impacts will result from the request, fulfilling policy 6.1.5. For Goal 25 of the Lehigh Acres Community Plan, the subject property resides in the commercial overlay zone as depicted on Lee Plan Map 2B, where commercial uses are permitted per policy 25.6.1. Access to the development will be located on Williams Avenue, and the design considerations provide adequate access to the site established by Lee Plan Objective 25.8. The provided FGUA letter states potable water and sanitary sewer capacity are available pursuant to policy 25.9.1, and the applicant held a public information meeting pursuant to the requirements of LDC Section 33-1401 for the request and provided staff with the meeting the meeting minutes from that meeting. Goal 61, the applicant indicated that the site is part of a master drainage system and will be served by conveyance swells to the system, fulfilling policy 61.1.1. As previously mentioned, the applicant stated that the amendment to the existing CPD will not change the current development, and the established water management system will need to comply with water quality requirements at the time of local development order, fulfilling policy 125.1.2 and 125.1.3. Goal 158 for economic element states that Lee County will achieve and maintain a diversified and stable economy by providing positive business climate that assures maximum employment opportunities while maintaining high quality of life. The proposed mini storage allows for business and employment opportunities to the Lehigh Acres area while providing a service to the surrounding community. Through public input, the applicant modified the access design to ensure safety to the abutting residential neighborhoods, ensuring the quality of life of the surrounding residents. For meets this code and other applicable county regulations or qualifies for deviations, the applicant has acknowledged that at time of development, land development code and other applicable county regulations will be required and considered. The applicant has requested the following 4 deviations with this request.
Okay, it's my understanding one has been withdrawn, though.
That's
We're
correct.
Focusing on 3.
Sure. We could move past that.
And the master concept plan, does it include?
It does. The master.
It'll have to be revised to delete the one that you're going to wait to apply for at DO stage.
Would you like them renumbered as well to, then it would be 19 total instead of 20?
That's,
Just,
Yeah.
is that better?
Yeah, we codified all of the other amendments and resolutions, so there were other deviations included with those. So that's why the numbering is a little bit, it's not 1 through 4, it's 17 through 20.
Right.
So yeah, we can,
Once you reassign that.
yeah, we'll reassign that.
And then you can delete 20
Right,
as a number.
right.
okay.
Very
I think the applicant did a good job on the deviations. I try not to belabor this too much. Deviation 1 seeks relief from LDC section 10-261A for the dumpster requirements. Staff did approve that, subject to a condition limiting use of the refuse area to office operations only. At time of development, order a copy of the lease agreement showing that tenants are prohibited from the use of the on-site dumpster must be submitted. The deviation shall apply to the mini warehouse use only on tract A through N.
So is there a retail component to this?
No, the justification was that the calculations that are required for that square footage on the dumpster, they're basically based on retail aspects. So the applicant's justification was this isn't retail, this is a storage facility that doesn't generate as much refuse.
That I understand. I just saw the reference to retail, so the calculation is based on.
Yeah, calculations for the from the land development code are based on those retail uses. And so their justification was this isn't a retail use. So
I see.
solid waste was like, yeah, we agree, it's not a retail use, so we won't.
So it's going to be a smaller footprint with the idea that the only waste that'll be generated will be from the office use.
That's correct. And then deviation 2 was for the parking requirement. Again, there is a 5% reduction to parking allowance in the Land Development Code section 34-2020C3 for bicycle and pedestrian facilities. So staff did recommend approval without conditions on that deviation.
Somebody's going to be biking over there to check on their unit, are they?
Yeah, could be. Deviation 3, which we discussed, staff just recommends denial at this time. It was from seeking relief from LDC Section 34-2013B3, which requires a 35-foot maximum entrance width at the property line to allow a 54-foot entrance width at Williams Avenue, right-of-way boundary. Applicant just didn't provide enough information for DOT to be able to approve that.
So that'll facilitate the RVs and boat trailers entering and exiting the site, I imagine, is the
And
justification.
the justification did discuss fire trucks as well being able to enter the Deviation 4, which seeks relief from LDC Section 10285, was for the accesses, and it doesn't allow for the access from a major collector road, which Williams Avenue does. Justification, basically, staff and DOT were able to approve.
And that's really in deference to the adjacent residential community to
Correct.
keep the impacts off of that road.
Correct, off of Fountain Mist. So compatibility with existing and planned uses in the surrounding area. As we've established already, the property is located within a established CPD and other nearby existing CFPD/RPD, CPD, and RPD zone districts. All uses as conditioned are compatible with the surrounding area. The planned development is located on the southwest corner of Fountain Mist Boulevard and Laripe Loop and Williams Avenue. Additional access is proposed from the Williams Avenue. Lee County DOT provided a transportation-related analysis stating the proposed project will not adversely affect the surrounding roadway system. The applicant provided an approved waiver, as we discussed, GEN 2023-00366, from providing required TIS with a condition that the applicant provides supplementary documentation that demonstrates the reduction of traffic-related effects. The applicant provided a trip-generated analysis that stated the reduction in 1,700 square feet of retail use in the CPD would allow for the construction of the additional 140,000 square feet of mini warehouse and would represent a decrease in overall trips from what was originally approved in the Town Lake CPD. Staff recommends a modification to the previously approved development parameters to reflect this analysis. In addition, the applicant's traffic analysis stated that the surrounding road network is adequate to support the proposed development. Again, the applicant provided the approved submittal requirement waiver, GEN 2023-00366, for the environmental maps, and provided the updated protected species survey and flux map. The applicant indicated the site is part of the master drainage plan, and that the existing ERP will be amended at the time of development to meet local and state requirements. Additionally, county environmental staff provided a report analyzing the request and made the following findings. The development regulations established in Resolution Z-99022 stated 90% of the open space and preservation areas could be located on the RPD property and existing gopher tortoise preserve that's on the RPD portion of the property. Subsequent amendment ADD 2011-00081 required that 6.69 acres of open space for the CPD area, and the development does meet the criteria. There was no indigenous vegetation or protected species observed on the subject parcel by the environmental consultant. And buffers to the north and east will be 15-foot type D, and to the south 5-foot type A. And as we've established already, to the west will be an enhanced 30-foot type F buffer. In addition, environmental staff has conditioned that prior to the issuance of the first development order, the development order plans must demonstrate all commercial storage will be shielded behind a continuous visual screen at least 8 feet in height when visible from a residential use or residential zoning district, and 6 feet in height when visible from any street right-of-way or street easement. The property is serviced by FGUA, Lehigh Acres Fire Protection and Rescue, the Lee County Sheriff's Office, in addition to public transit and schools and parks. Property is located within the established CPD with other nearby existing PDs and RS1 zoned districts. The project site is in a designated area for varying intensities that provide a full range of commercial uses as established in the Town Lake CPD. And as we've already indicated, many warehouse and open storage are existing allowable uses within the CPD. The recommended conditions provide sufficient safeguards to the public interest and relate to the impact the request will have on the surrounding land uses. And the applicant has requested 4 deviations from land development code requirements, and staff recommended approval of 1, 2, and 4 with conditions, finding that the deviations meet the criteria for approval. And in conclusion, the requested amendment meets the criteria established in LDC section 34-145, and we recommend approval.
Okay, thank you. That concludes staff and the applicant's presentation. I'm going to open up the floor now to members of the public. I have one sheet. Derek Felder. Good morning, thank you for coming.
Good morning. Derek Felder for the record. I am a member of the Lehigh Board, Architectural Review Board. I did abstain from voting on this, I believe, as I am also a resident of Town Lakes and also the vice president of the HOA for Town Lakes. I'm here in my personal capacity, though. You're amending to 220,000 square feet, which I believe is the overall CPD. What is the actual square footage of your proposed buildings? Height is 35 feet, but in all your renderings, it looks like they're 2 stories. So is 35 feet, is it a 2-story building with the roof, or is it a 3-story building? The conversation regarding the public storage versus mini storage, I mean, wouldn't anything over 1 story have to be a public storage building? I don't understand how you
The
could.
difference is public warehouse is accessible from inside the building. So when you see these multi-story storage facilities that are accessible from inside, they may also have outdoor bays, but they're accessible from inside. That use is called public warehouse. So they will not be able to build the building. The renderings they showed was a public warehouse. They're not going to be able to build that unless they amend this CPD to allow that.
Wouldn't anything over 1 story be that?
Yeah, I mean, you can't have accessible only from exterior if it's 2 stories, unless you had like a loft inside. And some of them do have a mezzanine for, storing. But 35 feet can accommodate 1 story or 2. The height is really what the cap is.
Could you do a 3-story building in 35 feet?
And
Yes.
35 feet?
Yeah, the front building is proposed to be a 3-story building.
Potentially 10-foot floors with a 5-foot.
Correct, our floor-to-floors are approximately 10 feet, and there's a small parapet. And the architecture is purposely scaled. You alluded to 2-story look. That's done purposely to bring the perceived scale down.
They were rendered properly. It wasn't that you're like trying
Correct.
to deceive us or something that didn't.
No,
show
no,
the
not
two-story
at all.
building, and really you're doing a 3-story building.
No.
Um,
No,
I
true.
will say this developer has been one of the best developers to work with, I would have to say.
It seems that way.
If more of the builders coming to Lee County would
Follow their example.
follow this example, I think you'd be a
Yes.
lot more happy public people.
Yes, I agree.
It was stated that the Williams is a 2-lane road, which it is, but it also has the center suicide lane and a turning lane when you get near Fountain Mist. What is the potential timeline for construction? At Fountain Mist and Williams, there is, from what I can tell when I looked it up from the school board, 29 school buses that stop at that intersection between the morning and afternoon. I mean, they could be the same school bus in the morning and afternoon, but there's 29 times the bus stops at that location.
Well, they're not proposing any access onto that road now, so there should be no conflict.
I would completely agree. That was one thing that I wanted to come just to verify. I mean, they said all those things. Is that confirmed now? Like, okay, you cannot touch that sign. That you guys will close that off. Like, is that, they said all those things, which is awesome. Is that in writing that okay now they have to do that and fix that bike rack area? Sidewalk was mentioned, which the sidewalk along this property is quite interesting to me because if you look back at an aerial and images from 2014, I believe, there used to be a sidewalk that goes along this frontage, and for some reason it was removed. So when they put back the sidewalk, would you put back it all the way to the other existing entrance, or would you not do the portion where the church is? And then potentially we could go, who knows how long it's going to take for the church to do their property, and we'd have a small vacant.
Well,
Sidewalk in this area.
the big factor of that is gonna be dependent on what's shown on the bikeways map. If it's shown on the bikeways map or within a quarter mile of it, or however it works, they'll have to construct that in accordance with what the land development code
Finish the
requires. Right, but they're not gonna be required to build it on their neighbor's property. But the neighbor's in for a DO, so they probably have to put in a sidewalk as part of their development order permitting
So that little area
to
could be-
connect it to the park.
could be left blank for a little while.
It depends on the speed of development. I think they're gonna be hung up a little bit with not being able to build that public warehouse. They can go forward with the back portion immediately upon the board's approval of my recommendation. They may have to administratively amend or maybe file a formal amendment to construct that warehouse.
The back areas are not 35 feet?
No, they're all 35 feet. It's just that the type of storage it is. That these are all 1-story, accessible from outside or open
Yeah.
storage. Right.
But you didn't choose.
That's all I
all
can
35
approve
feet?
today. Yeah, they're all 35 feet.
So then those back areas are also potentially not just mini storage, but those back areas are also multi-story public storage buildings?
No, because they're mini warehouse, which means it's accessible only from the outside door. So, I mean, maybe it could be large enough for an RV to go in there, but it's not gonna be a 2-story structure. Unlikely, highly unlikely.
I get what you're saying, but
Well, we'll let them answer.
yeah, we're gonna let them answer that,
Let
because
them
those
answer.
back areas are 1-story mini storage only. Those back areas are not the 2-story buildings of a public warehouse. You don't have to answer now, but those back areas are not the public warehouse type building. The water management you talked about between the RV storage and the canal, I think I got an answer on that from the staff, that's where the drainage swales are. It would be nice to have some kind of coordination between this CPD and not just them, but this greater CPD that also drains into the town lakes water management area that nobody else contributes to pay for. There's no formal agreement between the CPD area and the town lakes HOA area. So not that they can do anything with that, but it would be nice.
I can't, but I mean,
Yeah.
you all can approach them.
I'll say that the request obviously is for more storage. I will put on record that there are 4 other storage facilities in development in Lehigh currently, one of which we just had a thing about last week on. So how much storage facilities does Lehigh really need?
People don't wanna get rid of their stuff.
I think that's all I got. I think that's it.
Thank
Thank you.
you. We'll get an answer to your question. You wanted to know the square footage of the buildings that are going to be placed on this particular 3+ acre site. You want a clarification on how many stories each building was going to be. You asked for the timeline of construction and also what the plans were for constructing sidewalks. I think that was everything I got. You may have gotten more, so.
That was it.
All right, can we bring up the master concept plan? That'll probably be the easiest way to refer to this.
How long is it going to take you to get?
It's in my PowerPoint, the one that has all the red arrows on it. It'll work well enough.
Do you want me up here with you
Put the
to
record.
answer some of these?
I do, yeah.
We can run through this quickly.
Is that good there for?
Yeah, that works perfect. So, trying to figure out why we either may have missed this or not. So, there are details to the building that probably made us feel like indoor storage, hybrid, and the mini warehouse that was already existing worked for this. Because the primary building, the building A.
Can I just point?
Where did there? Oh, yeah.
Pointers there.
Yeah, building A does combine the two different uses. So it will have some exterior door access, and it will have interior only access to some of the air conditioning units that are typical.
And that's the part I can't approve today. You understand that,
I
right?
do.
Well, I understand according to the strictness of the definition. Yeah,
Okay, so the total square footage of the buildings you're going to construct.
140,000 square feet plus the, so what's shown on there is
Up
130.
to, I would say up to 140,000.
Yeah, up to 140,000 we have shown here, plus the 15 spaces for the covered RV.
Okay. And then he's asking how many stories?
So, building A,
Yeah, this
let me answer it this way. The only 3-story building we would put on this site is at Williams Avenue. Construction start,
Timeline?
a timeline.
Construction, yeah.
it was, we'll see with how we have to approach the specific use now, but the hope was to start roughly fourth quarter and 10, 11 months under construction. Regarding sidewalks, we intend to put a sidewalk on our frontage, and I think the church is going to be shortly behind us with their DO, so they would handle their frontage. And then the general association for the commercial, I think, is something we plan to revive. It needs to be revived, and hopefully that does address the need for better communication between the residential and commercial. It's my understanding it's defunct, so hopefully that can be revived as an association.
That was the questions I noted, unless you caught extra ones.
That was it.
So this is just more of a question for my clarification, because I think I have 2 or 3 other zoning cases that are that are now public warehouse or mini warehouse or combined hybrid or all 3 of those.
Make sure you consult 34-2.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Consider the uses you're seeking and make sure you request those uses
Mm-hmm.
in your list of permitted uses, okay?
Yeah.
If it wasn't a specific thing, like this case was one parcel, one use, it was just a general CPD where this use was one of many and it's not called out, then if you wanted to kind of juggle the uses, I could do it. But in this case, it's one parcel with that one use, the amendment is for that one use, and the advertisement did not include this use. So in future cases, what I recommend to you and to staff is to closely examine the type of facility that is desired for construction, describe it in the list of permitted uses, and if it is a standalone storage project, to make sure that it is advertised for the type of unit storage is sought. Because I can't step outside my lane. If I start doing that, that could be dangerous in terms of approving things that are not properly advertised.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you mean. So it is odd, there are then, within this CPD, the existing warehouse use to the south has open storage, which we are fixing, I guess, for them and for us, because we originally had open storage, so we added that to the list, but now we're enclosing it on.
I saw there was an administrative amendment for open storage, so that may have
Yeah.
already been legitimized on
Yeah.
the site. When I did
Oh,
the
there's-
site
yeah, the
check, the other
LDO.
storage looked like mini warehouse to me. I did not, it wasn't public warehouse that I could see, is it?
Yeah, it was just open
It's,
storage.
They have internal as well. And that's really, which is extremely common. And so there's actually, so we're saying that they are not consistent with the current land development code as they exist.
Well, I'll go back
So-
out and look, but I just know what I can do.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
and it could be as simple as an administrative amendment. I don't know. We'll have to look at the criteria for administrative amendments to approve plan developments, because you're not going to be basically choosing a different use. The height is already established. All the buffers, there's no additional external impacts from what you've already asked
the only thing we
for.
need to allow is the internal access.
It's, right, it seems like that is something that could be then approved administratively without further. But,
I just got confirmation on that, yes. They'll have the intensity and height vested already, so
Yeah.
it'll just be administrative.
Yeah, okay.
so that you could even have it run concurrently. The board approves this, and the next day you get your ADD to authorize this, and you're off to the races.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
I'll just real quick add, I think also favorable to this is, from a public desirability standpoint, warehousing public is generally perceived as much more desirable than mini warehousing.
Right,
So we're going in the right direction.
exactly, exactly. And, I invite for there to be clarity in the land development code, and I think staff has to take the lead in guiding applicants to ask for the right thing.
Yeah.
That's all. And I think you guys did a great job with this site plan. You're certainly, took into account the proximity of residential development and made adjustments to the site design to accommodate their concerns regarding compatibility. I applaud you for that. I don't see any reason to recommend anything other than approval for this. I will allow a week for you to update the master concept plan to change the deviation references on the map. It's probably going to take a few days for me to get the transcript, and my goal is to get the recommendation out before the May 24th cutoff. May 24th is the cutoff for the board to hear the case before their summer break. My goal is to get my recommendation out before that date, so you'll have a final hearing before the board takes their recess.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Thank you.
There was one other item that both of us were going to say in our presentation, but we forgot. There is a reference to the specific tracks for the shared access deviation. It's in one. So the dumpster deviation, number 17, says limited to track A through A through N, which is this 3.4 acre parcel. That's in the main part of the staff report. Later in attachment C, that I think inadvertently, that same limitation got attached to the shared access point, which wouldn't make any, that tract is actually tract A through S.
Okay,
And,
so,
and I actually copied it off of that part on attachment C into this report, into my report, and I put that condition on without really thinking that it was limiting.
Alright, so then when
It's
you-
incorrect.
when you prepare the deviations, just prepare them numbered one, whatever.
Yeah.
The next three, revise the language of that deviation so that it is correct. And as long as Mary Sue agrees with it, it can be a joint submittal.
Yes,
And then I'll incorporate it.
okay.
Okay.
So I don't need to edit my condition attachment?
No, he's gonna take care of it and then you will do it as a joint. That way only one thing comes in.
Perfect.
I'll use the language right from attachment C, eliminating number 19, renumbering it 17, 18, 19, and eliminate, and it was just an added sentence
Right.
onto that bottom one. I'll just strike that sentence.
So it sounds like you're already in accord, so
Yeah,
that.
We talked about beforehand, yeah.
So this master concept plan can remain the same, except that the deviation references will change.
Yep.
And you'll provide me with the new wording for the 3 deviations.
Yep.
And you'll do that by end of business on May 10th?
Oh, yeah, I'll get it done by tomorrow.
Okay, if you can do that, like I say, my goal is to get your final recommendation out by on or before the 24th, so that you can be heard and approved, hopefully, by, before the break.
I can amend the schedule of uses as well, if you.
Yeah. You could amend the ad.
Thank you for
Amending the publication notice would have been,
Oh, my time machine is not,
time machine.
it's in the shop, and I would. All right, okay, great. I appreciate your time and your diligence today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That'll conclude the hearing.